just like that.
I don't like it that much.
Hey, it is Friday, May 22nd. I am not doing a Zoom with 7th graders. I'm doing a Zoom with 8th graders because they all officially graduated yesterday. So that makes it all kinds of wonderful. Don't you give me that face. You are technically an 8th grader, whether you like it or not.
I'm not a sophomore.
And also a junior and apparently a freshman and a sophomore. I've got quite the collection of people here to watch all this entertainingness. And so this is a bonus Zoom. There shall be no real learning that's going to happen except for learning about me. And this is going to be about my final story I get to tell on the very last day of school. Let's go to, I don't have a whole lot to screen share, but I have a couple pictures to show you. And then it'll be mostly just me. So again, Skyward is updated through yesterday, unless you did the extra credit. I was not able to do the extra credit because there's way too many fields because y'all wrote like real emotional things because I hate you. So I started trying to grade it and then had to stop. So I've not had a chance to do that yet. Officially, 8th graders, it feels weird for me to say it also. School drop off next Thursday. I will be there. Now that I am not corona positive, I am anxiety positive. I will be there on that one in case you come by. Those of you who are advanced kids, by the way, I will be sending out messages saying, please drop off my gospel novel because I would definitely like to have that back from you. So you can either drop it off at my house or you can drop it off on that day. But one way or the other, I would definitely like to get that from you. E-learning you have through Monday for all of your classes. And I think they lock our grades coming up on Tuesday, just so that you are aware. At some point, we will not be able to adjust grades for you. And then same thing, information on my website in case you want it, blah, 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 blah. Then for yesterday, thank you. My one quote for you is don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Isn't that a great quote? I think I wrote that myself on the screen. I mean, I didn't come up with it.
You wish.
All right. This picture is going to play an important role today, so I want to sort of show you things here in a second. Today's story is going to take place when I was in 8th grade. And so it is actually going to be while I was on the football team, so it was at the beginning of the year. So you're going to look at 8th grade pic of me, and that is the kid you should be imagining during this story. That is the kid that is having this happen to him. And then Mike and Mark were also on the football team, so they're also going to be involved in the story that we get into. My friend Brown was not, so he is not a part of it. And Dana Casassa, I Could Only Dream, was part of it, but is not any part of it whatsoever. The other people that are going to be a part of it are going to be Darren Thompson and Rob Bennett. I'd mentioned before that they were going to be the ones who I got into a fight with, and this is where them coming in, this is that whole getting into a fight thing happens. So if you want to take a quick screenshot, if you need to go back and look at them to help remind yourself what they look like when you go through and have all the things, that is absolutely fine with me. And I can also give you the screenshot of me. Hang on. Where be me? There be me. And you can screenshot that one, and then you can zoom in and make it all big and make it the background on your iPad and make it all kinds of creepy when you like to throw darts at it or something like that. Is going to be the picture of me that we're going to have in today's story. All right. Now let's go to clickety and me. All right. So I have gotten into one fight in my life, like actual throwdown, punchy kind of fight thing. And it happened in my 8th grade year, beginning of 8th grade. So I might have mentioned a little bit before about the fact that I spent a lot of my time wanting to be popular. And so part of my I want to be popular plan was I realized popular kids were all on sports teams. So I decided that I was going to be on a sports team. So beginning of 8th grade year, I made the decision to go out and join the football team. Problem is, I had never played football. Not only had I never played football, I had never even watched football. I had never seen a football game. I had never thrown a football ball. I had had no interaction with football aside from the fact that knowing that for some reason girls like to go out with football players, and that was all of the information I needed. So beginning of 8th grade, I decided that was what was for me. I remember getting into a discussion with my mom about it, and she was like, "Hun, do you know how to play football?" And I go, "No." She goes, "Do you think you can make the team?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I am going to try." So beginning of 8th grade year, I went out for the football team. Luckily, I went to school in Noblesville, and it was a really small team at the time, so they didn't make cuts. If you went out for the team, you made the team, which was everything I needed to know. So not only did I go out for football my 8th grade year, I made the football team my 8th grade year, and there are pictures of me on the team my 8th grade year. They're hanging up in my classroom. You can actually find them on there. And if you do the trivia game on my website, I actually have my individual football picture that I took of like me down in like a little 3-point stance holding a football and stuff like that. It's one of the picture rewards you get if you do the trivia game on my website. So a little bonus for you guys on that one. So here's how me trying out for football went. I remember going out for the football team and showing up that day. We got pads and stuff like that. We had to like wear a little the jersey and things like that. And things were going really well, and I was all excited. And I remember we had to go out and like try out for different positions. So I remember I go out and I try out for the different positions, and the coach is like, "BroviCast." I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "What are you trying out for?" I'm like, "I don't know, sir. What can I have you do?" And he was like, "Well, let's try having you be quarterback." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I remember he gave me the football. And for those of you who, like me, had never actually handled one of these things at the time, the football is not like a normal ball. It's all oblong and has little pointies at the end. And I had no idea how to throw the ball. Literally no idea. So you're supposed to like grab it by the end. It's like a spinny motion. And now I can kind of throw it. It's like, woo. At the time, I literally looked like a 4th grade girl throwing a football. I grabbed it and just hit it and just propelled it through the air sideways. The coach kind of laughed. He's like, "Well, guess you're not going to be a quarterback." And I'm like, "I guess not, sir." He's like, "Well, are you good at catching?" I'm like, "I catch things all the time, sir." He's like, "Let's try you at receiver." So he had a thing where I had to run out. They're going to throw the ball to me, and then I just had to catch the ball. He throws the ball out there. I try to catch the ball. Hits me right in the helmet, goes through my hands. We did this like 4 times. Hits me in the chest, hits me in one hand. I don't catch a single ball. So the coach is like, well, apparently receiver is not what you're very good at. I'm like, "Apparently not, sir." He's like, "Well, let's try running back." So running back, if you're not familiar with football, is when sometimes the quarterback, instead of throwing the ball, hands you the ball, and then you run with the ball. And again, for those of you who were thinking, "Mr. Broviak, your body type when you were in high school or in junior high, I bet you were like all big and strong and tough like Vin Diesel." And the answer is no, unless Vin Diesel was made out of pipe cleaners, because that's what I looked like in junior high, especially wearing my football pads. I looked like someone had played hangman and drawn a stick person and then just put football pads on them and then sprinkled magic dust on them and brought them to life. That's what I looked like. And so I remember trying to be running back, but it was like they didn't even have to tackle me. They just sort of like breathed on me. I was like, win! And I went down. So it did me no good whatsoever. So that was a fail. So coach was running out of positions to put me in. And so apparently lineman wasn't the best one because linemen are big people because you're supposed to protect the quarterback. So eventually they found 2 positions that I could not screw up. One of them was on defense. And so there's a thing called a defensive end. And if you play football, a defensive end, but technically is supposed to be one that has skill and you're supposed to be big because your goal is like break through the line and then you can go and like tackle the quarterback or tackle the running back and something like that. And you're supposed to be all big and buff, like and knock people out of the way. Turns out there's another way to play defensive end that we were unaware of. If you are skinny enough, you sometimes just go between people because they're not expecting something that thin and twiggy to come flying at them. So I ended up being not awful at defensive end. But it turns out there's another thing with football. I know people make fun of football players and say like, hey, they're big and dumb and they can't do all kinds of things in school. Turns out football requires skill. Not only does football require skill, it requires a level of intelligence because they have these things called plays where they actually make sense to football players. They're like, I call a thing like a hut 25 spin 13, which means you go out and turn and spin and then come around. That meant nothing to me. So every time they called a play, I would just stare at them blankly. And they're like, Broviak, you know the plays? I'm like, I don't know any of the words you're saying. And they tried to explain the plays to me on defense, and I was not good at figuring those out either. So one of the reasons I was really good at defensive end is as smart as I was and as honor society as I was football stupid. And a defensive end, as the coach explained it to me, was, Broviak, here's your one job. Guy over there says hike, ball moves. Your only job is to chase the ball, and you're going to tackle whoever has the ball. And I'm like, oh, you dumbed it down for me. I can do that. So the idea was if it goes to this guy, I tackle that guy or that guy, and I would go through there. And I was not horrible at it, if I played on the C team on plays that did not matter, I was able to get in. So I was pretty excited because I was on the team and I got a jersey and I got to go to all the football things, and I was a pretty happy lad. The other position I got was one that was on kickoff and kickoff return. Again, for those of you who are familiar with football, is when you kick off the ball at the very beginning, and it flies to the air, and a team grabs and they run. Apparently, I could not screw that up too badly. But on kickoff return, the idea, or kickoff, you kick off the ball and you have to go again, tackle the person with the ball. I was good at that. It was like throwing me at somebody was sort of like lassoing somebody, because you had like all these like gangly bits coming at them. There's like you're throwing a rope around them. I was like, and I'd go out there and attack them. Either that or it was like being attacked by Slender Man, and I would just scare them to the ground. But however you look at it, I did somewhat decently in that area. Except other kids on the team apparently were a little insulted by my existence. They thought the idea of me being on the team was a horrible thing. So enter the kid named Darren Thompson. Darren did not like me being on the team. He thought I was an embarrassment to football players, probably because I was an embarrassment to football players. And Darren lived for football. It's the only thing that he really considered important. And so the fact that I was on his team sort of brought everything down. So Darren made it his goal to get me to quit the team. That was what he wanted to have happen. What he didn't realize was I was too dumb and stubborn for that to happen. So Darren began this process of trying to get me to leave. And it started off where what he would do is basic harassment. Like for the first week or so, it was just him making fun of me. Whenever he would walk by, I was like, Brovi, you're ugly, you're an embarrassment, you should quit the team. And I'm like, yeah, probably you're right. But I didn't. And after a week of just making fun of me and saying like I should quit the team and I'm an embarrassment, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, you're not like, that's not news. That's like going by and saying, oh my God, that tree is green. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm an embarrassment and I know I'm awful. That's not going to make me quit because I still get to wear the jersey and I still get to hang out on the football things. So I'm not quitting. So when that didn't work, he decided to step it up a level and go to the physical part of it. So here's how he goes to the next level. So it turns out that football practice, there's this thing called a line drill. And the way the line drill works is the coach would have like all the players like line up against each other, and you would get down into a 3-point stance, which is where you have like, you stand and you have like your hand on the ground and you're right there, and you have the other hand up, and when they say like, go, you would then jump up and you have to hit the other guy. And so you're all wearing full pads, and the idea was you're in a 3-point stance, coach blows the whistle, and you're going to try and knock the other guy down to make you all big and tough when you hit them. And I was like, ooh, I had a younger brother, which I mentioned earlier. And so I remember hitting him all the time. And I'm like, ooh, I'm good at hitting other people. That's in my wheelhouse. I can do that. And so I actually enjoyed that part of practice. I mean, I didn't always knock people down, but I enjoyed the hitting part. I'm like, ooh, this part's least exciting.
Oh, you would have liked rugby.
I know, I would have. And so it went well for a couple days until Darren decided to get involved. So what Darren did is one day during practice, we've been doing this for a couple days, and Darren one day went over and made the kid across from me switch places with him. I go and get into my spot, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get down my little 3-point stance, and then the kid across me is right there. Darren walks over, grabs that kid, moves him out of the way, and Darren lines up across from me. He was like, Brovi, you're going against me today. And I'm like, okay, sure, we can do that. So I get down to my little 3-point stance thing like that, and Darren gets down to his 3-point stance, and the coach blows the whistle. And as soon as I come up, Darren goes low and then sort of like superhuman jumps up and hits me in my little shoulder pads with both hands. And I get lifted off the air and then whoop, straight onto my back. It's like and the air comes out of me. And he does that thing that you see like in movies and TV shows where he then like steps up over me. He's like, quit the team, and then goes back over. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, game on. Like, that was pretty impressive. So we then have to line back up again. Darren stays across from me. Coach blows the whistle. Darren comes at. This time I sort of expect a bit more, so I sort of hunch more. But when I hunch more, he, instead of going low to high, he comes up high and then just pushes me straight down to the ground. So instead of knocking me into the air, I just went straight into my face and smashed my face into the ground. Again, he walks over and he was like, quit the team. So this continues for like the whole rest of practice of him being creative, of either hitting me up or down or to the side. And I hit the ground more times than I ever had before in my life. But I figured, you know what? I got through that day. Not the end of the world. I can keep doing this. So we go to the next day. And the next day, I'm like, all right, I got through yesterday. Let's see how I do today. And again, Darren starts up again across from me, moves that kid. He gets there. He like makes the kid go over to where he was when the coach isn't looking. And the coach apparently was completely oblivious at the time. And Darren lines up across from me. It continues again. Darren continues to pound on me. It was disheartening and frustrating. But here's the thing that happened. Because I was so dumb and so stubborn, and I refused to quit, ironically, Darren made me a better football player because I started not getting knocked down. And I remember the first time it happened when he goes to hit me, and he hit me hard in the chest when normally I would fly backwards and hit the ground, but he hits me hard in the chest, and I went backwards and didn't fall. I went, huh. And I was all excited, like, I didn't fall down. And then Darren, of course, just stepped up and then pushed me, like, ah, and then I fell down. But still, for that moment, I did it, and I didn't get knocked down. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, so that's what not getting knocked down is. And it started happening more and more often, where he would hit me or push me down, and I wouldn't hit the ground. I started anticipating it, and I started getting to the point where every time he hit me, it would just knock me backwards. And it really started to frustrate him, and it made me really happy because I'm like, I'm getting better at this football thing. This is the best thing in the world. So Darren decides to change the game. So a couple days into this, when I've stopped getting knocked down, and I'm all excited to the point where I'm starting like to brag to the other kids. I'm like, I think I'm going to get good at this football thing. So Darren, the next day, doing line drill again. I line up, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready for this. I'm like, I'm getting good at it. Like, I'm not hitting the ground at all today. Darren goes across from me, and then when the coach isn't looking, he does like this little snappy thing with his hand, and his friend Rob, the other guy I'd shown, quickly ran over to the guy next to Darren and moved that kid over. So now it's me lined up here, Darren across from me, Rob next to him, and some random kid here. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And I'm like getting my little 3-point stance, a little nervous, a little shakery. And I look up and I see Darren looking at me, and he's smiling, and he looks over at Rob, and then Rob's smiling. I'm like, okay, this is kind of sus. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. And the coach blows the whistle, and I come up, and I'm like, oh, I got this. And as I come up, Darren comes at me, and then Rob, who's over one, instead of going at his kid, also turns, and Rob comes at me. So both Darren and Rob hit me at the same time. Definitely caught me off guard because I came up and I'm like, oh God, and I went flying backwards in the air, and I land, feet go flying up. And of course, the kid next to me, who is supposed to hit Rob, just like runs past him. He's like, what? Looks around, and Rob's like, sorry, I missed. And I'm like, ah, laying on the ground. So this continues where they both keep hitting me for a while. And that's like the last thing I remember during practice. At some point, they gave up or I got better. But the next thing I remember that stays with me is I did not quit, like for the whole rest of the season. I would love to tell you, like, this is the part in the story where I got really good and I became like a starter and I proved Darren wrong and like everyone cheered for me. But that never happened because I was awful at football. There was just no changing that on any level. But here is what did happen. Last game of the season. And I was excited because last game of the season was being played at the high school. Like all of our other games were played at the junior high, but our very last game was like our big like end of the season game, and we got to play at Noblesville High School. And I remember I had gotten better with the point where when I played, I still didn't get into like the A game, barely got into the B game, but I was no longer embarrassing. And so I'm like, hey, that was a huge step for me. But something happened where I actually got to play in the A game on that last one. Our coach ended up being a fairly nice guy, and his goal was to try and like work in as many people as he could. Now, I didn't get put into like an actual big play. I got put into a play where you're trying to not the punt, but the field goal. So we had like the lead at the time, and the other team was trying to catch back up, and they were kicking a field goal. And so the field goal again is like you hike the ball back, you have like the two lines that hit each other, and then the one guy runs up and kicks the ball and tries to go through like little uprights. And I was on the defensive part of that. And so my goal is to try and stop that because I think the coach thought, well, there's no way Brovi can really screw this up, so we'll go ahead and put him on there. What's the worst that happens? I'm like, all right. So I remember I was lined up out there and I was all excited because I was finally getting into like the A game. And I'm like, all right, this is my day to shine. And the kid runs up to kick the ball. And remember, my physical features, like a stick man, it came in to an advantage. And so when the guy goes to kick the ball, I'm behind the line where they all hit each other. And I jumped up and went like my little hands into the air to try and block the ball as best I could. And I felt the most amazing thing in the world. I felt the football hit my fingers. So apparently, tall stick man me had gone up high enough with my hands, and my little, as I was trying to go to the tall like a tree, the football hit my fingers and did not go through the uprights. It hit my hand and sort of like, and then fell behind me. In all of my sports career, which existed of just football, this was the highest point of my life, and I was excited on a level that is hard to imagine. And I hit the ground, and I was like, that was me. I did a thing. I did a good thing. I did a good sports thing. And it was such a moment of excitement and joy. And all like the play ended and the whole team goes running off to the other side. And they're like, yay. And we're all cheering. And the coach comes over to all this where it's just like you imagine in a movie. When like everyone's like cheering and high-fiving and excited. And the coach is like, that was amazing. Who stopped that ball? Which one of you was that? Who stopped that ball? And it was my moment to shine. And I was all excited. So I'm like, yeah, boy. And so I step up so I get to finally say something. And Darren steps in front of me and goes, that was me, coach. I stopped that one for you. And the whole team starts cheering for Darren. And they're like, good job, Darren. Way to go. I don't even think he was on the field. But the whole team turned and got excited and started cheering for him. And it just broke me on the inside. I'm just like, that was me. And I was so upset. But I couldn't say anything because if I said anything at that point, no one's going to believe me because Darren's like one of the tough, big football stars. And I'm like, me. And if I'm like, no, that was me and my giggly, no one was going to listen to me anyway. So I'm like, fine, it doesn't matter. I know it here, and that's what's important. I don't need for those people to know. This will be just a thing I get to hold on to. So that was the last game of the season. So like the next day or the day after, we're in the locker room and we're turning stuff in. And I had friends on the team. And so I was like sitting with my friends and talking to them and stuff like that. And so we're going to have like the end of the year thing where we have to be in the locker room. You turn in your football pads, and then we're going to go to like the LGI, but it was for like a Noblesville, where it was like a room where you have like a big party. And then we were going to be done for this whole season. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm sitting with my friends and I'm getting all my pads together and stuff like that. And I get my name called. So I bring my pads up and I walk up to like where the front where the coach is. And so I go ahead and hand my stuff over to the coach. And then I'm walking back through the locker room to go back to sit next to my friends. And Darren just gets up to walk past me. And as he walks past me, he does that shoulder hit thing where you walk by somebody like, and you just sort of hit him in the shoulder just to like be a jerk. And as I walk by, Darren just whack, hits me in the shoulder, but he hits me hard enough, it spins me, and I sort of step back for a second. And something broke in me. I know they talk about in TV shows and movies where suddenly you see red and you're not thinking and you just sort of snap. This is the only moment in my life where I actually remember that happening. And when he shoulder slammed me, something in me just snapped. After all the crap he'd put me through, after everything that had happened, I was just done. So when he shoulder slammed me, so he hits me, I remember spinning to one side. I just went, and I turned around and I grabbed him by the front of his shirt. So I grabbed here and I grabbed here and I picked him up and I slammed him against a locker. And I started yelling in his face, just smashing him. It's like, whang, 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 against this locker in front of the entire football team. And I start yelling. I'm like, what is your problem? Why do you? And I'm yelling. In the process of me doing that, all of a sudden, anger ragey bit leaves me. And I realize, holy crap, I'm slamming him against lockers and the whole team is staring at me. And it's that realization of, oh crap, what did I just do? And Darren's eyes are huge, and he's just staring at me right into my eyes. And he has that same moment of, what are you doing? And I'm in the, I don't know, what am I doing? I remember just all of a sudden, like, he slid down, I was like, ee! And he sort of slid down the lockers as we stared at each other. And then Darren goes, fine, you want to fight? Let's settle this with a fight. I'd never been in a fight in my entire life. I was your goobery, nerdy, honor society good kid. Fighting wasn't the thing I did. I had a younger brother, and I beat up on him, but I'm not sure that really qualified as a fight, because every time I punched him, I got grounded. But at that moment, I didn't know what else to do. So Darren goes, do you want to fight? And I go, yes. Yes, I do. Because it seemed like the right answer at the time. And he goes, fine, when this is over, you and I, we're going outside to the baseball diamond, and we're going to fight. And I went, yes, we are. And then I just sort of like let go of him and then just walked away back to my friends. And then he walked over to his friends. And the whole football team was sitting there staring at us. Now, where we'd been, it wasn't where the coaches could see. Like, the coaches were back in the office. I'm sure they heard a commotion. They just sort of like wrote it off as like 8th grade boys being idiots. Remember, I walked back to my friends, and I'm like pale and kind of shaky. And I sit down, and they go, what did you just do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, did you just say you're getting into a fight with Darren? And I'm like, I think I'm going to get into a fight with Darren. They're like, he's going to kill you. And I'm like, I know. They're like, he's like strong. And I'm like, uh-huh. They're like, you're not. And I'm like, you're not good friends. They're like, we're trying to save your life. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So apparently I committed to fighting Darren at this moment. As soon as our awards ceremony was over, we're going out to the baseball diamond. Noblesville is a lot like our Fishers Junior High, where if you've been outside for PE, you go across the little wooden bridge and there's the baseball diamond like right behind the school. Noblesville is the same way. They have a little parking lot, and then right behind the parking lot, there's a baseball diamond. It's like literally right on next to the parking lot. So that's where we were going to go have this fight. So first we go to the LGI, and their LGI was all like a movie theater, where it's not like ours, which is like a big flat area. I remember theirs has like tiered seating, where it's like went up like an angle. So like down lower here, you could like roll next to the stage, like up here, like up in the higher areas. And I remember Darren and his friends sat in the lower area because they were going to get a whole bunch of awards because they could actually play football. I sat in the top area with my friends who can't play football very well because we were not getting awards because we're very special kids. And I remember we're sitting way up there in this top area, looking down there, and Darren kept turning around like during the awards thing when the coach wasn't looking, and he'd look back at me and he'd do that whole point at me thing. And I remember I tried to look tough back, because whenever he'd do it, I'd look back and I'd be like, "Arr." And I'd like do like a little punchy thing, but I tried to be intimidating. But I mean, again, this is intimidating, and like taking two like baby sticks and smacking them together is probably as intimidating as it looked. But for me, it felt really strong and intimidating. So my friends try to help me out. So they start trying to give me advice, as friends do. And I remember them like, hey, have you been in a fight? And I'm like, no, I get grounded every time I hit my brother. They're like, all right, well, here's the advice we're going to give you. Like, my friends have been in a lot of fights. They've never been in a fight either, but apparently they've seen movies. Like, all right, so here's what you want to do. You want to throw the first punch, because if you throw the first punch, you're going to take them off guard, and it gives you a chance of winning. And I'm like, okay. Like, you want to aim for the face a lot. You want to punch the face a lot because that's the best place to punch. I'm like, okay, punch the face and throw the first punch. And they're giving me all this information, which is not helping whatsoever, because I've never actually punched somebody. Even my younger brother, I've never like punched him. Like, I've sat on him, I've hit him with a pillow, but like, I didn't hate my brother, so I never punched. Like, my fisty bits had never made contact with someone else's like squishy bits, so I had never experienced that part in my life. But I was prepared to carry this through. So the whole awards thing ends, and the whole football team knows the fight is going to happen because kids talk. And so we all leave the school in one big group, and we just leave, go out the back doors, and our whole football team goes across this little parking lot to where the baseball diamond is, and we go out to there. Nowadays, as a coach, I don't know how that would happen, where like all of a sudden the whole team was like, oh, we're going to all leave together, and we all just get up and like walk out the back thing, just like make a giant circle like you see in every single movie ever. But coaches back then apparently didn't care. But that's exactly what happened. just like you see in movies, we went to home plate on the baseball diamond. And it was me, and then it was Darren, and then it was the entire football team just made a circle around us and did that whole fight, fight, chant thing. Like I was in the middle of a fight, fight, chant, chant thing. They're like, fight, fight. I remember I get up, and Darren's facing me, and I'm facing Darren. And I'm like, okay. So I do the whole hands thing. Like you hold your hands up like this. I'm like, this did not happen. I had not invented this yet. This came later. I was still in the process of trying to do actual fighting. So I was holding my hands up. If I had known about this, I would have used this because it would have come in very handy. Instead, I tried to do actual punching, which I was not very good at all. So I remember I have my hands up, and then Darren's across from me, and Darren has his hands up, and we're both doing that like little bouncy who's going to do the first fight thing. And I can still remember thoughts that go through my head. So I remember standing there, and Darren's across from me, and we're doing that little circle thing when our hands are moving, and I'm repeating my friend's advice in my head. Go the first punch. All you have to do is punch him. Just extend your arm. Just hit him right in the face. You can do it. Come on. Take that. And I remember I looked down at my hand. I'm like, you right there. Come on. You can do it. Just go right into his face. That's all you get. You can do it. Come on. But being as that I'd never punched anyone before, I was having a real tough time getting my actual hand to extend into his face. And then Darren helped change my mind. So as I'm standing there, holding my little fist, trying to convince my hand to come out, Darren just goes wham, and it hit me right in the nose, like square straight into it. My head snapped back. It was like an explosion of color and pain all across the front of me. And again, something in me kind of snapped. I didn't lose full control, but I definitely lost it a little bit because he punched me, and my head snapped back, and I went, "Rrr!" And here's where I would like to say I came at him like every great boxer and fighter you've ever seen, and I was swinging and punching, and I dropped him. But that's not what happened. What happened was I launched myself at him like a feral cat. I literally went, "Rah!" and I leaped through the air and landed on him. Both of my hands hit his shoulders, and my body hit the front of his body, and he went straight backwards, our faces right next to each other, while I rode him to the ground, holding on to him, and he, wham, hit the ground onto his back. As soon as we landed, I began to just unleash fury upon him, and I started swinging and punching and yelling and cussing, and I'm like, when I'm swinging and punching at him, and I'm laying on top of him, and I'm hitting, I remember I'd hit his face, I'd hit the home plate, I'd hit dirt, I'd hit his neck, I'd hit his face, I'd hit his chest. Like there was no aiming. I was just firing down, and I was screaming. I was like, I hate you. You're a horrible person. Why are you so mean to me? And I was just I don't know how much damage I was doing. If you can imagine a really angry 4-year-old with 2 pool noodles sitting on top of you, just slapping you with pool noodles, I'm pretty sure that was the effect I was getting across. So I'm just going at it, and then all of a sudden, his friends come up and grab me from behind and drag me off. And my little arms are still just like going like this as they drag me backwards. And all of a sudden, Darren gets up, and he's holding his face, and he just starts yelling, I won! Fight's over! I won! And his friends come over, and they're like, good job, Darren, you won that one. And I remember what I said at this point. They pulled me back, and Darren said I won, and I went, what? What do you mean you won? He goes, where I come from, whoever draws first blood wins. I drew first blood, I won. Because technically he did draw first blood. When he punched me in the face, he did make my nose bleed. Now, given he did have blood on him, it might have been from me. I don't know. It might have been from my fingernails. I went at him like a cat. It might have been from dirt flying across his face that cut him, but there was definitely marks upon his face. But he claimed that he won. And what I remember my answer was, I said, but I'm not done hitting you yet. I like the way it feels. So that was my response, because I'd never unleashed hateful anger before, and it really was a really delicious and fun thing. And so he's like, I don't care. And so he just walks away. And I remember just standing there, like looking at my hands and like doing like a little flexy thing. And I was like, ooh, like the way it felt when my hands hit his face was like, I really liked it. Like that was a good sensation. Like all the anger came out from my hands. My anger went into his face, and that was really fun. And I was enjoying it. And my friends came running over. They're like, what was that? I go, what? They go, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I got into a fight. And they're like, that's not like a fight I've ever seen. Like, you launched yourself at him. I'm like, yeah, that's what you like. That's not what any human does. And so I had to explain to him, like, well, I mean, that's how I fight. And so I remember at that point, like, we were talking. And so like at that point, like the fight was over and we all just get done. And we like the whole football team just like walks back across the field. My friend's talking to me and Darren's over there like cheering and walking away. I remember I just kept telling my friends, I'm like, hey, I really want to punch him more. I'm like, we do more of that fight thing. Like I was kind of enjoying it. And remember we got back and like there was a whole line of like cars out there to get picked up. And I go over to get into my mom's car. It was the gray Bonneville that I showed you with the picture of me getting arrested from high school. And I remember I get my backpack and stuff like that, and I come over to the car, and I open the car door, and I sit down in the front seat, and my mom is driving. He's like, hey, honey, oh, my God. I go, well, I'd forgotten, face all bloody from just getting punched, hadn't been paying attention to that. My mom's like, what? Your face is all bloody. What happened to you? And I remember looking over, and I go, I got into a fight. She was like, what? What do you mean you got into a fight? So I explained to my mom as we're sitting in the parking lot about Darren and the fact that Darren had been harassing me and I got tired of the whole thing and the fact that I finally decided to stand up to him and the fact that we just got into a fight. Remember, like I pointed over to like the baseball diamond, like we were like right over there and then we got into a fight and then we're back over here. Here's what I remember next, my conversation with my mom. I told my mom that whole story. My mom stops and she looks at me. She just sort of shakes her head, nods it down, and then she goes, "Hun, you know fighting is wrong, right?" I go, I know. She goes, "Did you win?" And I went, I don't know. And her response is, "How do you not know if you won?" So I had to explain. I'm like, well, he says he won, but I said I wasn't done punching him yet. So he says he won, but I feel like I want to keep hitting him. And my mom nodded her head again. And she goes, well, hon, fighting is wrong. And you shouldn't get into fights. And I go, I know, Mom, I'm sorry. And then she goes, you want to go get Dairy Queen? And I went, yes, I do. So my mom took me to go get Dairy Queen. And I got an Oreo Blizzard. And so after my first fight, my only fight, I got to go have an Oreo Blizzard, and I got to sit there and talk to my mom about how the football season went. And I remember sitting in the car eating my Oreo Blizzard while talking to my mom afterwards. And that is one of those happy memories that I have after my first fight. As far as my interactions with Darren after that, he and I never really interacted a whole lot because football was done. And that was like our whole main interaction. Like he wasn't in any of my classes. We didn't see each other in the hallway. So it wasn't like I had to worry about keep seeing him or anything like that. We were pretty much done with each other. And it wasn't until like years later in high school, he kept telling that story. Like I'd have kids who were like, hey, I had a kid named Darren Thompson in my class. He was telling me about this time that you got in a fight back in 8th grade. And so apparently for him, he kept telling that story, but I moved on from that one. But aside from the fact that I now have a story that I then get to pass along to you guys, that was my one and only fight that I ever got into that I now get to pass along to you. So as I mentioned before, we get to end with a happy note. So hopefully most of you, like Shalini's mom, got to laugh at me during that story, because I did see that in the chat, which made me laugh. I'm glad that I could make parents laugh also.
Do you have any life lessons?
I don't like giving life lessons. I feel they're worthless, especially from old people. They're basically completely useless. So I would never do such things. Now the drawback is we're kind of done. Like that's the last thing I have for you. We wrap up with my story for you guys here at the end of the year. And no, Mr. Brown's first name is not Charlie. It's Eric. Good job, James. I'm impressed on that one. Ooh, Never. Good job, Eric. I forgot. Never mind. Svillanov does know him because he plays Dungeons and Dragons with him, so he knows it is Eric. So, how sassy on that one. Oh, I missed the 11 a.m. tornado alarm and stuff like that. How nifty on that one.
I didn't.
Did you hear it also?
Yeah. You're busy talking over it though.
Morrissey, no. At 3 o'clock today, I'm done dealing with kids, and so I will not speak to another child again until sometime in August because I don't believe in. I can't even keep a straight face. No, I'd actually be fine with that. Probably doing it again sometime next week because if not, I'm gonna go insane also, and I actually enjoy.
Are you tired of me already?
I was tired of you like 15 years ago, so you're fine. Don't worry about it. And so, yeah, I'm actually absolutely fine with that. I mean, I guess basically what it comes down to, Morrissey, is if you're okay with me just randomly making fun of students because that's what brings me happiness and joy. So if that, or finding out what certain people are eating for breakfast so I can harass them about that also. We all have, sorry, I just wanted to watch Grace's eyes get really big on that one too. And so we get a chance to bond. Unfortunately, I may not have more highly entertaining stories. Actually, that's probably a lie. I probably have a ton more stories that we could get into, but that's all right. But yeah, I have no problem doing that. And I have, Cibulco, who keeps trying to pressure me into coming up with some kind of Twitch channel so I can stream me playing video games, which I've not completely given up on yet. So I can have my ones of followers as I play any particular game that might be out there, but that may still be somewhat entertaining on some level. So. The good news for me is I get to go into the junior high today because we finally teachers come in. So I get like 15 minutes that I get to walk through the school and go drop stuff off, which may not be exciting for you, but it's kind of exciting for me. So that's something. So other than that, you guys are good to go. Hopefully life has treated you well. And I got to end the year with a somewhat happy, laughy story for you on some level, which he never leaves. Which definitely, wait, no, Jackson did leave. Wow, how unusual. But I have your favorite French horn playing Malia here. Does that count? Thank you, Rylan. Rylan's applauding me. I'm assuming he's applauding me and not applauding Malia.
No, he's applauding me.
Oh, he's applauding you? That seems like something. Malia, what's up?
Oh, I remember. Okay. So you know how you have the volleyball magnets?
Yes.
Like the 8th graders, you can have mine.
I would happily take that one. Thank you. So is that on your locker at school?
Yeah. And
if I walk through the hallways, you're okay with me ripping that off and putting it on my chalkboard?
Yes. And I have a second one too. But even if I just had one, I would let you have it.
He likes stealing.
I do like stealing from. Shh. Thank you, Malia. Much appreciated. And let's see. What Grabinski, you have? I'm sorry. Is that a tortilla collection? I'm sorry. I am curious because I don't know exactly what a tortilla collection is. Being as that's a thing that's supposed to go into your. Oh, that I'm not even sure how to respond to your piles of tortillas. I mean,
jealous.
Your obviously Hispanic family must eat a lot of food from your homeland. I'm not sure.
You're just jealous, Dad. You want more tortillas.
Grabinski, I'm unmuting you to see if you can give me an explanation for all of your tortillas.
So my dad apparently has like 4 different meals planned with tortillas involving them. So he bought 40.
I'm gonna support. I support Papa Grabinski and all of his mini tortilla shells. I look forward in my next Zoom at some point finding out, because I plan on asking you what meals he came up with that involves that many tortilla shells. I hope it involves at least like having you guys run down the hallway and him throwing a tortilla shell at you as part of like the tortilla game.
Yeah, I probably should throw these at my brothers because we have some room. It'd be great frisbees.
I feel the same way. Marin.
Bye.
See you, Marin. Thanks, and thank you for sending me a message and all that. It's much appreciated. You're one of my kids I'm planning on getting back to. I like your fluffy hair. Oh, real quick, Marin, how's the new house working out for you? You enjoying it?
Yeah, I like it.
A bit more room to run around and hide in? Yeah, I could definitely understand. Especially being quarantined, I can imagine to do a house with lots of room would be a very good thing to have. I'll respect that one. And Elena, were you going to say hi to Jenna? You can't because she's not here because she hates me.
No, she hates
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I have to go, but if just tell Jenna I says hi.
I will. When I finally find out where she's hiding, I will definitely pass that along without
I
an
will
issue.
pass that along.
Shalene,
Thank you. Goodbye, Mr. Bro.
bye, Branson. Till next time. Shalini, I mean, kind of. I teach the history. They smell weird. I'm assuming she's talking about the tortillas and not me. I teach about the history of me, so that's something. I mean, yay. All right. Wait.
Oh, Lauren smashed her toe.
Oh, Lauren, stop smashing your toe. You need a new hobby, kiddo.
Yeah.
I was holding my dog and I put the chair and I didn't realize my toe was underneath the chair.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I couldn't get up because I was holding my dog.
It's not me, so it's hilarious. But the fact that you would probably be an unfortunate thing.
Shalene says she's
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
I don't think Shalene doesn't mean that
Here's the
Shalene's a third grader. Shalene means that her sister's a third grader.
No, Shalene is
The one that want to know if I was a history teacher. And I think Shalene should definitely begin her life of lies now. Then we get a chance to go from there. So yay. And Ryland, I like your loot llama again. It makes me smile. Well done on that one. Oh, I feel like a totem pole all of a sudden. Happiness. All right, enjoy until I get a chance to see you guys again. I'll keep sending out reminds. Hopefully you guys get a chance. Oh, look at the puppy. Whenever I do the turn-in thing next Thursday, come by, see me, stuff like that. Stuff will be good. Lauren, did you raise your hand again as I try to get off? Lauren, what's your issue? Trying to leave you alone.
Hi.
Yeah,
When should we hang out?
never.
Wow. Just going
That's a joke. That's a joke.
such anger. I mean, quarantine.
You have my number. We can talk there.
So awkward. All right. I'm out. I'm going to go eat a peanut butter and jelly until I get a chance to see you guys again.
Bye. I'll miss you all. You guys were my favorite. All of you guys. If you stayed this long,
Remember,
you're my favorite.
You shouldn't get into fights, but if you do, get ice cream afterwards.
And win. You gotta win.
Well, I mean, or at least, and remember, punching people is, no, we're not going to say that whatsoever.
Punching people's fun. BroviCast 2020.